Carter's ever worked at Universal.
And when she refers to Zanny, she's saying the person that she dropped Kaylee off with.
Yes,
Had
when she
worked
talks
at Universal.
when she talks about Zanny, she talks about that she was a seasonal, and also her roommate was a seasonal. Zanny had a roommate named Jennifer, is what she told us. And Jennifer was also a seasonal employee, and this is key to the conversations that she had with me during the time she was supposedly looking for Kaylee. Okay, and I'll get into that in a moment. So I think a clue there is a seasonal. And I know you guys don't look on clues or whatever, you're not supposed to be putting a jigsaw puzzle piece together, but sometimes that's what we have to do when we're trying to figure stuff out. But that's a seasonal employee. The roommate of Zanny is a seasonal employee, and Zanny herself worked at Universal at some time. So, and actually Amy did tell me she does work at Universal Studios, because Amy and I had about an hour conversation, because Amy's the actual first person that I was able to reach out with to after we picked up the car from the tow place and realized that Casey and Kaylee weren't in Jacksonville. I saw in the front seat of the car, and the police have the bag and everything, and they know that I kept one of the, there were several resumes for Amy in Casey's bag, and that's how I got Amy's phone number, which is also a Fort Lauderdale number, by the way. And Casey made reference to that in Lee's phone conversation that Zanny had a Fort Lauderdale phone number, just FYI. Also that well, I'm getting ahead of myself, I don't want to do that. Anyway, there was a bag in the front seat of the car that I recognized, Casey's car, when we picked it up from the tow place. And it was her bag that she took to work. There is a lanyard missing that I told the sheriff's department that's missing. It was there when we picked up the car. It was there with all of Casey's effects the night that the sheriffs came. It was missing the next morning when we were trying to find it to give to the detectives. And I said there was a lot of police in and out of our home. I don't know if someone picked it up or not. It's very distinct, and Casey wore it all the time. It was shamrocks, green and white. It was green shamrocks with white beads, and then it had her original Universal ID on it, which, you know, she had since she graduated from high school. Anyway, that's missing, and I don't know where it's at. It was there, and it was with this bag. And in the bag, there was a few other items I can't remember about, and a couple other things. The police have all of that. We took inventory. That was the only thing that was missing. Casey never had opportunity to go into that garage, because as soon as I brought her home, I followed her into the house. My son stayed with her while I was dialing the police, and the police kept her ever since. She was never out of their sight, so she never had an opportunity to go into the garage. And it was over, we have an ice chest over by our washer and dryer in our garage, because we don't have a laundry room, it's in our garage. And I had it over there because I had the bag and Kaylee's baby doll that was in the back seat in the car seat. That I had taken out trying to air out from the stench that was in the car. And I had already told the deputies everything that was in the car is sitting right here, so if you guys want to look through it or whatever. But anyway, I had pulled out of her bag this resume that I found for Amy. And Amy's name came to us. I had heard Casey talk about Amy probably about 2 months prior to all of this, so maybe April and May. Amy's name had come up in conversation, that she was a friend of hers. She was trying to help her get a job and do some things, and she had some resumes and she was going to try to turn them out. So a red flag came to us about somewhere about the first, second, or third week of June. It had to be, no, it wasn't the first week, I can tell you that, because Casey wasn't home or we would have had it. It was during the time that Casey wasn't at the house, so it had to be after the 14th. Somewhere around that week or the next week, we got a notice of address change from the post office. You know, when they send you the request to change the address. Well, it came to Amy Zahinga with our address on it. And I asked Casey, when I talked to her one of the times, I asked, I said, why is Amy sending a change of address to our house? She's not moving in. She says, no, Mom, Kate, that Amy wanted to send a package to the house for her roommate. Instead of it going to her home, in Oviedo, she wanted it to come to the house. I said, well, that doesn't make sense, Casey, because you don't need to do a change of address. You just tell wherever you want it to be shipped, you just ship it to that address and just alert someone that lives at that address. You don't go through the address change. So anyway, excuse me.
I'm
Sorry. When I happened to find this, I called Amy that night. I called her and I said, Amy, unbeknownst to me that Amy had just seen Casey a few hours earlier, I told her who I was. I said, this is Mrs. Anthony. I said, Casey's mom. I said, have you seen? And she was the first person I reached out to after we found the car, and I knew, besides leaving Casey a message, where the heck are you? She answered the phone. She was at the Florida Mall, and I said, have you seen Casey in the last few days or so? Just playing off like there's nothing wrong. And she says, well, Mrs. Anthony, she just picked me up from the airport a few hours ago. She says, I just got back from Puerto Rico. And I says, really? I said, and how did she pick you up? She said that she had lent her car for the last week because Casey's car was in the shop.
So Casey was driving Amy's car?
Casey had been driving Amy's car. And I says, well, do you have your car now? She goes, no, I'm at the mall with a friend. I said, well, where's your car? Does Casey still have it? She says, no. I dropped Casey back off at Tony's. I believe that's where she's at. And she says, my car's at my apartment. And she says, I'm with a friend at the mall. And I said, well, how long do you think you'll be able to get back to the apartment? I'd like to meet up with you and talk to you. And she says, well, I don't know. We might be here for a little while. So I let Amy in. I said, Amy, I don't know where Casey is, and I'm not sure if Kaylee's with her or not. I'm a little bit concerned. I said, do you think I can come and pick you up? I said, because I'm not that far. I mean, we live close to the airport, and it would be maybe 20 minutes to a half hour. She says, well, let me call you back. Let me make a call, and I'll call you back. So about 5 minutes went by, and then she called me back and said, sure, I'll meet you at the food court. So she says, I told her I'd call her as soon as I got off the 528 and got real close, so that she could come out because it was starting to storm that night. And I told her, so I actually called her when I got into the parking lot of the mall, and because I had never seen her, I didn't know what she looked like. I had no idea that this was the picture of the girl that Casey had, that I had actually seen before and didn't know. This is Amy, and that's with Kaylee, and this is Ricardo with Casey. So anyway, Amy got in the car and we started talking, and I said, do you think you can take me to where Casey's at? She says, yeah. She said, this is the guy that she had just met, and I think she's staying with Tony. My understanding, Tony, she was just helping him promote his band and whatever he does, and they just started to kind of connect, and I did not know him as being a boyfriend or anything like that. Ricardo actually thought that they were still boyfriend and girlfriend. I think at this point Casey was using Tony as a place to hang out, because she started staying with Tony when Kaylee turned up missing, because she couldn't come home without Kaylee. She couldn't go to any one of her friends that knew her with Kaylee. And this Tony just met her and really didn't know that much of Kaylee. I mean, knew that she had a daughter, but it wouldn't be a red flag because he didn't know Casey as how she was as a mom. If she went to any other one of her friends and stayed for a couple of days, it would have been a red flag. They would have either called me or called her brother and said, what's up with Casey? And where's Kaylee? Why isn't she going home? I mean, I think she deliberately was staying with Tony. And it makes sense if she's out looking like she says she is, trying to backtrack, trying to find this person and trying to find who has Kaylee, that it would not be, you know what I'm saying? It just kind of made sense. I'm still not 100% this theory is right, but I'm just saying I want someone to follow this up because it's very compelling, everything I'm putting together. Amy was she took me there and immediately stepped away and wanted to be taken back home, and at that point I had no reason not to. Casey was kind of surprised when Amy went to the door. I kind of stayed around the corner when Amy went to the door at Tony's apartment, and as soon as she opened the door, she went back down the steps because we walked up a flight of steps, and Casey came out and she was surprised to see me, and I knew right away Kaylee wasn't in the apartment. And if I truly thought that Kaylee was in danger at that point, I probably would have went in the apartment anyway and said, where the hell's Kaylee? But I didn't do that because I knew right away as soon as I opened the door, Kaylee wasn't in there because it was full of smoke.
Can I ask you a question?
Full of smoke.
Why did you stay around the corner?
Because
What?
A,